Hey there, welcome. We are going to get started now. Here we are talking about the business of iridology questions and answers. So we're going to be looking at what does it take to have a successful iridology business. This is an important question because, it's not just a matter of you take a class, you hang your shingle and people come. It's not a case of build it and they will come. So we want to talk about how you do this successfully. As we're just waiting for people to join us, I'm going to invite you, I'm suggesting it's a great idea for you to hop on over to iridology.education. When you see that little pop-up window, go ahead and fill it in because that will give you access to a downloadable constitutional iridology map. And that will also help you to keep in the loop when I'm doing free webinars like this. There have been a lot of misconceptions that have been perpetrated by people who've been trained in archaic and disproven methodologies of iridology, and that gives us all a really bad name. So as we do this today, we are going to be talking about how to have an iridology practice if you have up-to-date iridology training using the most recent constitutional iridology information that is out there. And we know that iridology research is still going on, particularly in the world of the constitutional iridologists. The chat and comment boxes are all open, so let's have a conversation while we do this. Sound good? All right. I am actually going to stop the screen share. Or no, I'm not, because I just remembered I don't know how to stop the screen share. So for those of you who are with me on Facebook or Instagram, sorry, you've got a small image to look at. And when you see me looking away, I'm just monitoring my other screens so that if anyone is asking a question or making a comment, we can involve them in the conversation. As we do this, that's actually not the screen I wanted to be at just yet. There we go. All right. Sorry, I seem to have a bit of a discombobulation happening here, and it's not fun. This is what I need. All right. So what gives me the right to share this information with you? My name is Judith Cobb. That doesn't give me the right to anything except my parents' good name. I am a master herbalist, natural nutrition clinical practitioner, and a certified iridology instructor. As I look at all of that, I have been in business as a practitioner for 40 years, a certified iridologist for well over 30 of those. And in those years, I've also authored an iridology textbook, a 200-page iridology textbook that is only available to my students at this point in time. I've also authored other books on herbs in pregnancy, herbs for children, and herbs for the general public, especially along the lines of herbs for the Nature's Sunshine Products people. I've done a ton of webinars and Facebook Live events in an effort to answer some of the more common questions I get asked about iridology and doing iridology as a business and being an iridology practitioner. Now, as my students will tell you, I love questions. Questions tell me that people are thinking, they tell me that people are searching, they're looking for information, that the cogs in their brain are turning, and that the previously presented information, whatever these people have been exposed to, is not being naively taken, but it's being contemplated, it's being turned over in their brain, and they're looking for understanding. Questions are fabulous. I especially love it when my students come up with questions that I don't even know the answers to, because it makes me do more research and find answers, and I love that. My students will tell you the only question that I consider to be a stupid question is the one that you didn't ask. So today's session is dedicated to answering questions, and should you be asking any of these questions, should you want to actually study iridology with me or with somebody else, these are the kinds of questions you need to be asking. Having said that, you can likely adapt all of these questions to any holistic discipline that you want to study. So in our time together, I'm going to be answering the 7 most common questions I get asked. And if you can come up with more that are of the non-iris assessment type of questions, not about iridology markers, then throw them into the comments and chat. And like I said, I'll be watching those, and we will make time to answer them before we wrap up today. And I want you to know that as we talk about these questions, there's really no right or wrong answer. And these are my answers. These are what I've proven over the last 40 years of being a holistic practitioner. The first question is, how does Iridology help with my clients? How does using Iridology with my clients help me in my business? Well, first off, it saves time. It helps me to create rapport much more quickly, helps me to focus on my needs much more thoroughly. It teaches me what questions to ask. And it's a non-invasive assessment tool that gives me a much deeper understanding as to what my clients' needs are. Now, this is really all super important because so many of the things that we study and learn to be holistic wellness practitioners are standalone skills that don't integrate with anything else that we do. They don't integrate with anything else we already know. Iridology, on the other hand, is about tying things together. It's about helping us to understand our client in such a way that we then understand which of the tools we have are the most appropriate and what parts of those tools to use. So what nutrition recommendations to make, what herb recommendations to make, flower essences or aromatherapy or lifestyle skills. And how do we use that all together to create a cohesive program, a sensible program for our clients? I find that Iridology really helps me to do that. It helps me to create a really cohesive, tight program for my clients. And that is a benefit to them and to me. And as we answer more questions, you'll understand why I say that. And my primary concern here is that it is a benefit to them. What styles of Iridology have I learned? Well, when I started 40 years ago, I originally learned the Jensenian style of Iridology. My teacher was a first-generation Jensen student. She had been to Escondido a couple of times to study with Bernard Jensen. And so she was my first teacher. I've studied with several other Jensenian Iridology teachers in that first 10 years of business. Then I learned Rayid, which is a lovely Iridology study. I learned that with a teacher here in my home city. Her name is Chris Smith, and she is now retired, but oh, I love that study. Then I learned also constitutional. Now, when I first learned constitutional, I became disenchanted with Jensenian Iridology. And through a common friend, I heard about constitutional Iridology. Back then, this is going to date me quite seriously, I saw an ad in a publication that my friend was putting out for VHS videos about constitutional Iridology, and they were produced by Harry Wolf and Bill Cardona. And I studied those videos, ordered them up, studied them. I don't know how many times I went through them, but they made such sense. And so I've studied the 3 styles of Iridology, and they are, I've abandoned most of the Jensenian, and that's going to be, we're going to talk about that a little bit more right now. What styles of Iridology do I use with my clients, and why did I choose them? Constitutional is my primary focus. It is the one that I use with every client who comes through my door. It's the one that I'm constantly referencing with them. I use Rayid a little bit, and it's interesting because Rayid was developed by a man named Denny Johnson, and he no longer actually teaches the original Rayid that I learned, but there were so many valuable bits in there that I've retained those. And I know that Denny has created new programs to go in different directions to go further and so on, and I haven't gone that direction with him yet. However, again, I did have the Jensenian background, and my frustration with it was huge. I studied it, I practiced it, I wanted it to work, but it didn't work. I found that I had been promised that certain things would happen when I saw certain markings in a client's eye and we did certain therapies, certain recommendations that were followed to a T, I was told that we would get certain results in the eyes, and I never saw those results. And I know a lot of other herbalists and practitioners who feel the same way, where they haven't seen the results they were promised with the Jensenian style. I even went to Vancouver, which was a 4-day trip, had to fly out their hotel and all that, to study with another well-known North American herbalist who was a Jensenian iridologist. And the whole weekend was so disappointing because when I would ask him questions, he didn't have answers for me. So when I started studying the constitutional style and I was starting to apply it to my clients, and I'd had no face-to-face teacher, I'd only had those videotapes, I was stumped on one of my clients' eyes. I had a camera, I was taking photographs, and I was stumped. I didn't understand what I was seeing, so I chanced it, and I called the phone number that was associated with the people that I bought these videotapes from. And Bill Caradonna answered the phone. And what I was so impressed with was, this was before internet days. I couldn't email him the pictures I was looking at. I was able to describe the images I was looking at. And he said, well, do you see XYZ? And I said, no. And he said, well, if you did, you would interpret that eye in this way. Do you see ABC? And I said, yes. He said, well, then you want to interpret what you're seeing in this other way. He couldn't see the pictures, but he knew what I was talking about. He knew what I was working with, and he was able to teach me over the phone. And that is just, in my opinion, a fabulous system and a marvelous teacher. Why do I love constitutional iridology? Well, I love it because it is based in science. We have scientific validations happening constantly. There's ongoing research. I love it also because I've been supported by my instructor. All these years, I studied face-to-face with Bill Caradonna. I brought him up to Alberta twice, Calgary once and Red Deer once, to teach classes, and started studying with him in 1993. And to this day, we are still friends. He mentors me. If I have a question, if I have an issue, if my students ask me a question I don't know the answer to, I take it to Bill and he mentors me. And because he is so generous with mentoring, not that I'm contacting him every week, but you know, it's probably once every couple of years. He is so generous with that I pay it forward to my students on that, or maybe it's paid back to my students on that, where I mentor them long after they finish their coursework with me. So I still feel very supported, and I've since connected with Harry Wolf as well. And I love his sense of humor. And again, he is hardcore constitutional. And I love seeing what he does with it. Another question that I often get asked is certification important? And I have to ask more questions when people ask me that. And so the first question that I need to ask is, who am I talking to? What is their goal? And the reason I ask this is because certification in any field may be required to be affiliated with a professional organization. I know with my nutrition training, I need to be affiliated with a nutrition organization in order to get errors and omissions insurance, for instance. And so there may be reasons to be certified. There are many reasons to not be certified, and you have to balance this out for yourself. I don't think certification is for everybody. So your clients probably don't think certification is important. Many of them actually won't know enough about iridology coming in. They're intrigued by it, but they don't know enough about it to know that there is certification available, or to know who the certification is through, or what value that certification has. Certification might be important to you personally, and it depends again on what you want to do with iridology. Certification is regulated only by the association that grants it as far as iridology goes. There's no federal, provincial, or statewide recognition of iridology certification at this point in time. And so if you are using iridology in a clinical setting and you have other skills that require you to have insurance coverage, you may want to just tuck the iridology in there if your insurance company also includes coverage for iridology. However, if iridology is something that they won't insure you for because they don't think it carries any risk, then maybe certification is not important to you. Maybe certification is important to you personally, kind of as a way of closure method. Maybe it's the thing that says, yes, you've arrived. Yes, you are now validated as an iridologist. And so maybe that's a really good reason. Now, some people really like the feeling of seeing their name on a certificate, and that's perfectly fine. So there's no wrong answers with should you be certified or should you not. You just have to figure out what your motivation is and whether the certification is important to you personally. Iridologists ask me, what does it, or not iridologists, nutritionists and herbalists ask me, what does it take to be a successful iridologist? And I guess, yeah, some of my students have asked me this as well as we're partway through the course. Well, certainly you have to study hard. Being able to take correction and to continue with ongoing learning, being able to learn and willing to learn new concepts and let go of old concepts that are inaccurate, being able to explain things clearly in plain English, having other modalities that mesh well with iridology, things like herbology, nutrition, flower essences, aromatherapy. Those are all things that will help to make you more successful as an iridologist. Not having at least one modality is going to really mess you up. I've had I've had a handful of people come to me who've done iridology training elsewhere because they were intrigued by it. And they've asked, can I have some of your time? And I will give any iridologist who is working to set up a business, I'll give them a half an hour for free, just to find out where they're at and what they need to do and to coach them a little. And they'll come in and they'll say, I've got this iridology certification. Good for you. What do I need to do to open a business? Well, what other skills do you have? What do you mean? Do you have nutrition? No. Do you have herbology? No. Do you have aromatherapy? No. Do you have flower essences? No. So really, you're like a mechanic who can assess the situation, but you can't fix the car. And they look at me with that blank stare and I say, it's like you take your car to a garage and the mechanic there says, yep, it's the thingamajig under the whatchamacallit. I know exactly what it is, but I never fix cars. I only assess what's wrong. If you want it fixed, you have to go to Jim down the street. He can fix it. That's not useful to your client. So you need a second modality. Nutrition is a really strong one, and so is herbology. Next question, how can we take our iridology practice from being paid by the hour, financially limited business to one that does not have an income cap? Well, I want to tell you that doing one-on-ones is great. To go beyond the paid by the hour scenario, you really have to have a product line that you work with, supplements that you work with, whether it's essential oils or herbs and vitamins, or you've got to have a product that you can sell so that when you recommend something, you can sell that product to your client. Now, some people would say that that lacks integrity and that you're going to oversell products. But you know, what I found is with my students, because I attract students who have the utmost integrity, none of them would ever upsell anyone. They limit themselves to speaking about a few products, to teaching their clients about a few products that address their client specific needs and that have been validated by what we saw in the eyes. And so it's so important. So I primarily use the Nature Sunshine products. You know, I've been with Nature Sunshine since 1979. And the beauty of that is I can carry an inventory and sell it to them at retail if that is what my client prefers, or I can help my client open an account with the company so that my client can order right from the warehouse and can get all kinds of crazy discounts. So in order to be financially successful, you need to really have a product that you can sell. The other thing that I see is that iridologists tend to undervalue what they do. If you're an iridologist with nutrition certification, if you're an iridologist with herbal training, if you're an iridologist with aromatherapy certification, you are worth probably more than a massage therapist is. And so you want to value yourself appropriately with what you charge, right? So if you've got experience under your belt, you need to be charging more than someone who's brand new. If you've got certifications and extensive training under your belt, you need to be charging more. If you, do you see what I'm saying? That you need to value yourself, because if you don't, and this is what drives me crazy with Facebook and Instagram, is you see people saying, post your pictures here and I'll do an iris analysis for 30 bucks. Oh my goodness. If you've got legitimate training, you're worth more than 30 bucks, because the way they're doing an analysis is going to take anywhere from probably 45 minutes to an hour to do it properly, only they're not doing it properly because they've got no input from their clients. Okay, that was a soapbox and I will get off that one. All right, so with all of that in mind, would it be okay if I took a few minutes and introduced my course to you? The course is called Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology, and I'm introducing this to you because registration is open right now, and it will be only open till Monday evening at 6 p.m. So that's July 27th, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. This is the only live, online, 40-hour, fully mentored course for nutritionists, herbalists, and naturopaths who want to streamline their clinical work without sacrificing client care. Because what I find is that so many nutritionists and herbalists take too much time to create their protocols, and it causes problems. It means they're giving their client way more information than the client can actually use at that point in time, and that discourages the client from coming back. The goal of Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology is to teach you constitutional iridology and how to use it confidently so you can easily integrate what you already know about nutrition or herbology to confidently create doable client programs in your paid client sessions. The fact of the matter is, when you've got this under your belt, you should be able to create a nutrition program that will take your client to the next step that they need completely within a 1-hour consultation. And that consultation includes intake. In my office, it includes taking photos of their eyes. In your office, if you don't have a camera, it would mean viewing their eyes with handheld devices and making good notes about the things that are important, and then creating their little program for them that's going to take them to the next step, and then teaching them about those steps, right? And that can all be done in an hour when you understand iridology. So the next course starts on Thursday, July 30th. It'll run 5 to 7 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. This course is taught via 20 live 2-hour-long webinars. We meet once a week for 2 hours. You will get all kinds of stuff, and we're going to talk about what you get in this class in just a moment. And the full purpose of this is to help you do your client assessments faster, create programs in bite-sized steps that your clients can actually be successful with. The program includes all of the curriculum you need should you decide that you want to do the certification test with the International Iridology Practitioners Association. Let me show you how this works. This is a client came to me in her mid-30s. She was having fertility issues, and she'd been trying to get pregnant for about the past year. She had conceived once and had miscarried. She'd had a pregnancy about 10 years prior that was successful. So when we look at her eyes, what we see is that she has these luscious brown eyes, right? They're definitely in that brown family. But look at the fibers. Look at how some of these fibers look like they're sat on top of other fibers. And this gives us information specifically with where this fiber is sitting, specifically about her digestive system, her nervous system, how well she absorbs nutrients. We've got lots of stuff there happening here. This eye specifically tells us that there may be a challenge with the MTHFR defect, that she may not be able to methylate her bees properly. And what we know is women who don't methylate their bees often have fertility challenges. Her eyes also suggest that there is likely some liver insufficiencies where her liver is not wanting to do its job properly. And of course, that means that liver regulates hormones, it regulates cholesterol, it regulates blood sugars. All of those things can really mess up fertility, correct? This slight bit of cloudiness that's over the edge of the eye suggests that there might be a personal history of liver enzyme imbalance that may mess up how she processes her carbohydrates. So as I'm looking at her eyes and she's saying she wants to get pregnant, and you'll notice I have not looked at every single marking because I didn't need to. These markings tell me things about other things in her body, but they're not answering the question of why is she having problems getting pregnant. In the scope of our appointment together, I asked her how long her cycles were, and she said she was having a cycle about every 30 days. And I asked her if she had carbohydrate cravings. She said, oh my goodness, yes. And so I asked her, what had she done about that? And she said, well, she recognized that that was a problem because some time ago, someone had mentioned she had polycystic ovarian syndrome, and they connected that to the carb cravings, which is a perfectly great connection. And she had cleaned up her diet, but she still craved carbs and she still indulged a little bit. So if you understand polycystic ovarian syndrome, and if you tie that to MTHFR, we've got two significant things that really will inhibit her fertility. So I did not need to talk about everything that I see in her eyes. I needed to talk with her about getting control of those carbs. We needed to do a little bit of liver support with her because she's got several indicators that suggest liver, and liver is such a huge player when it comes to hormone balance and fertility. And we were able with all of that to put her on the right form of B vitamins. We used some liver support that helps with phase 1 and phase 2 liver detoxification. And all of these things we chose would be safe if she got pregnant. That's a really important thing when we're working with fertility. We always create programs that would be safe if the client gets pregnant while they're on the program, because that is our goal, right? To have them get pregnant while they're working with us. We suggested using a few other supplements that would have an impact on her hormones, including an excellent quality omega-3 product. We worked together for about 3 months and she got pregnant. Yes. And just in case you were wondering, there are no markers in the eye that can tell us that she's pregnant. All right. And that's just how quick it was. You know, you greet the client, you ask her, find out how she is, have her sign a release form. That takes about 3 minutes flat. Ask her what she would like help with. Ask her what she's done about it already. What has she tried? Look at her eyes or take photos of her eyes. Pop them up on your computer screen because that's the easiest way to look at them, is to have them really big. Look for the markings that give you information about what her symptoms are. Understand how those markings tell you what could be unbalanced in her body or where her struggles might be. Address that on a very, very fundamental level to start with, because we always start with as little as we can and we build from there. Teach her about what you're doing. Send her off for a month to monitor her cycle, chart her basal temperature, chart her mid-cycle mucus, all of that stuff if you're into fertility like I am. And bring her back after a month to find out how did she do with her homework, what's her chart looking like, what are her fertility symptoms, are they improving, and all that good stuff. And it takes only an hour. So if you are accustomed to seeing your client, then going away and spending 2 or 4 or 6 hours of your own time creating a thorough, detailed, everything they'll need to know for the rest of their life kind of program and bringing that back to them, and you're not getting paid for that program development time, why? Why? And are you making enough money are you charging enough for the time you're with your client to cover the time it takes you to develop your programs? This is the beauty of Iridology. You get it all done when you're actually face to face with your client, and it is so lovely. And this eye, if she came in with a different symptom, I would be looking for different markers. I would be looking for a different story in these eyes, or a different chapter in her book, if you will, to help her resolve her issues. Alrighty. So we don't need to talk about every marker. That would take us an hour and a half to do that, and to teach about every marker and about the diet for every marker. We don't do that. We don't need to do that. It's not necessary. We only need to create a program that will take our client to the next step. That ensures our client can be successful getting to the next step. And then when we see them in the second appointment, we add to the program or modify it to take them one more level up. So we're constantly taking them up a step, up a step, up a step in their wellness journey. So important to do that. So quickly, here's how the program is delivered. Again, 20 live webinars, all the curriculum you need to take the IPA certification exam, should you so choose. The value of that is $23.95 Canadian. If you're in the US, trust me, our dollar's not worth very much. That's going to come out to about $1,800 US. And just consider for a moment, if you were doing a 40-hour course and had to take a week off work to go do it, what would it cost you? Airfare, hotel, meals, your tuition, ground transportation, covering your bases back home, whether it's childcare or elder care or someone to check on your property and bring the mail in, right? You've got expenses, right? And it comes out to way more than what we've got here. That would come out to about, I've done the math, about 5,700 Canadian or about 4,200 American. This course is worth $23.95 Canadian. You get video recordings of every class. So that means that you have the class twice over. If you have to miss a class, no big deal. You can go back and listen to the recording of your class. That's valued at $23.95. Every topic we cover, because some lessons are divided into 10 or 12 subtopics, has its own topic recording on your student site. So if one concept didn't stick, you don't have to listen to 2 hours of information. You can go to that one exact topic and get it. That is like getting the program a third time. So it has a value of $23.95 as well. So the total value of just the curriculum is $71.85 Canadian. But this includes a lot of mentoring. It includes a lot of downloadable product as well, a lot of support materials. And it's definitely worth at least that much, probably more. This is one of my graduates. Her name is Sharon Bimrose. She's a naturopath in Australia. She came to me with an iridology background from her naturopathy studies. This is what she said. Judith's course, Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology, surpassed my previous training in structure, content, delivery, documentation, and support. And she says, Iridology has certainly reduced the time required for prioritizing a treatment plan, because she used to create her treatment plans on her own time. This is Stephanie Morgan. She has a master's in education. She came to me with a confused background in iridology because she had been reading books and watching YouTube videos and everything was conflicting and confusing. She kept doing internet searches. She kept searching the internet and stumbled across my YouTube site. And she said this, as she described it, oh my, this person knows how to teach. And Stephanie has written some beautiful reviews for me about the format of the class and how it works and how she felt she could ask questions whenever she wanted. And you can find those if you look me up on the iridologyassn.org website. That's the IPA website. This is Karen Choate. She is also one of my grads, and she said, when I asked, how has learning constitutional helped you in your business? It has helped me to understand the relationships between different organs and organ systems more in depth. She was already certified as a CNHP, so this is great that she's going deeper. Gives her the advantage of seeing the potential for different genetic traits and qualities that may be underlying. By observing the constitution, for example, you can extrapolate how the person's body will likely respond to applications of healing methods. Therefore, it has helped me to expand my knowledge, increased my efficiency at providing more precise recommendations for health-oriented options. So what materials are you going to get that's actually going to help you with this? And what is the actual investment here? Well, the actual investment is $23.95 Canadian, or 5 payments of $529 Canadian. This works out to about 400 US. And you can get, we're going to go quickly through more information, but registration is at iridology.education/course-info. So not only do you get all of the recorded stuff, I've written a downloadable textbook, 200 pages worth, and we're not talking little pages. These are full 8.5 by 11-inch pages. Most teachers make you buy a textbook. You have to buy your own textbooks or rent them in university. I include the downloadable version of my textbook as a bonus for you. You get an iris map, a digital downloadable iris map. Most teachers make you buy one. I give you one as a bonus in the class. Cheat sheets. No other teacher has cheat sheets. The cheat sheets are where we've taken the entire curriculum and broken it down into charts of point form notes and have got everything in the same order as the course, so you know exactly where to find things. These are quick reference guides. So when you're with a client and you're thinking, I know what I'm looking at, I just don't remember how to analyze this. I don't remember what recommendations I should be considering here. That's the cheat sheets for you. $175 value. This is 45 pages of point form notes for you. My students love that one. Most of the time when you get into a program, there is support, there's mentoring, and there's coaching, and nowadays there's a Facebook page for everything, right? A Facebook group. And what happens when your course is done is you get kicked out, you get cut off, fly on your own, make it or break it. I don't believe in doing that. My instructor has not cut me off. I don't cut my students off. So we have a private Facebook group, which you can be a member of for as long as I'm teaching. And we have twice a month office hours webinars where students can submit cases that they need help with or that they want to discuss, and we discuss them as a group. I also use the office hours to share extra information on things, like the next one we're doing in August is going to be camera equipment. Many of my students have camera equipment, but I can see from the images they're posting that they haven't mastered the photography yet. So we're going to spend an hour going over how to get the best eye photos. Right? So these two things, you never get kicked out of these. You can submit cases years after you've graduated, and I've got many students who do. They just want extra eyes on a set of eyes, and they want that mentoring. So that is why these two things are worth $20,000 combined. I pay $1,000 a month for business mentoring, right? So this would be the equivalent of 20 months of mentoring if you were doing it with a business coach. The office hours webinars are recorded. They're stored on a student site also, so you can go back and watch those. So if you submitted a case and you couldn't take notes fast enough to write down everything we were talking about, that is just fine. Go back and listen to the recording and take all the notes you want. We only store these for 18 months just because of bandwidth. IPA Exam 1 and IPA Exam 2 mentoring, I include this as a bonus. Most IPA certified instructors, you pay your tuition, which is anywhere from $1,200 to $2,200 US to do the course. And then if you decide you want to certify, they have a certification mentoring program, and you pay anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to do that. I include the mentoring, and I encourage all of my students, whether they want to certify or not, to do this. This is 10 cases where you will write out an iridology analysis for 10 sets of eyes that I will provide to you. And you will do this in a way that you will never do it again, but this proves that you know stuff, and it proves that you know how to pull things together. You do the 10 cases, you send them to me, I mark them with a fine-tooth comb, then you and I have a private one-on-one to discuss them and make sure you're solid, to correct anything that needs correcting, to give you accolades for everything you're doing that's wonderful. If you decide that you want to continue on to IPA certification, then I encourage you, you have to do IPA exam too. I don't encourage you, it's required. I give you a case that IPA has provided to instructors. You write that up, you send that back to me. We go through it with a fine-tooth, or I go through it with a fine-tooth comb. We meet one-on-one to go over it again and make sure you've got this rock solid. When you and I both agree that you are rock solid, I let IPA know that you are ready for the exam. You will need to purchase an IPA student membership to actually apply for the exam. And then you will need to apply to IPA, pay the exam fee, and the exam is a 4-hour written exam. Again, I include the mentoring as a bonus for my students. I just think it's so important that you have that opportunity to be mentored, whether you're doing the final IPA exam or not. So the total value of the course itself and all of the extra bonuses is over $31,000. And I could totally sell it for that because of the amount of mentoring that is included. But you know, that puts it out of the reach of most of my students, right? And so that is why we've come up with the tuition of $23.95 Canadian. Again, that's about 1,800 US. You have the option of the payment plans of doing 5 payments of $529. And so we've tried to make this very approachable, and I've set it up to give you so much support so that if you want to be hugely successful, we are opening that door for you right there. Please connect with me. Hop on over to iridology.education/course-info. If you want more details, you can also register for the program there. I'm hoping that by going through the common questions I'm asked by people, by students and iridologists as they are trying to set up a business, that it's helped you to get some clarity on what's required. It's not just learn the skill and hang the shingle. It's learn the skill and learn how to use it and learn how to integrate it with what you do. We even talk a little bit about marketing in the mentoring program. So if you're having problems marketing, I can give you ideas and help you laser in on things that could help you with that. You can follow me on Iridology Education. If you are a holistic practitioner, please look for the group Iridology Education for Holistic Practitioners. And you can follow me on Instagram at iridology.education. Thank you so much for being with me today. I have thoroughly had fun with this. I hope you have benefited. Just before we wrap up, just wanted to check any questions or comments, anything else that I can help you with at this time. And we will just give all the platforms a moment to come up with whatever, whoever is with us on each of the Facebook pages. And we didn't get to Instagram because they wouldn't let us today. And those who are on the webinar. Okay. If you are typing something in, use the little raise hand icon so I know to wait for you. If you're not, and if I don't see hands go up pretty quick, either I did a really good job of answering your questions or I've totally snowballed you. I hope it's the first. And with that, my friends, have an excellent weekend. I look forward to seeing you soon, and I look forward to having you in the class. iridology.education/course-info. Registration closes Monday, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. See you then. Bye for now.